computer. Hopefully it'll work. All right, so what I'm going to do is go over a little bit of chapter 14 and then chapter 21 as far as kind of the types of problems that you'll face with these two chapters. Chapter 14 deals with mortgages, and we don't cover everything that has to do with mortgages. We more or less just cover how to figure out your monthly payment and then how much interest you're paying on your mortgage over the life of the loan, etc. But we don't get into the adjustable rate mortgages and things like that, or any of the closing costs. We just focus on basic mortgage. So it's really sections 14.1 through 14.3 is all we cover. And then I do a little bit on section 14.6, which is what is the available credit that you have if you bought a house and you owe so much on your mortgage, but then you also have equity in your home, how much equity do you have available? So we'll go over some of that in chapter 14. But really the big thing with this is being able to figure out what your monthly payment is going to be, and then how much of that monthly payment is interest and how much of that monthly payment is principal towards your loan. And so that's what we'll look at. But what I'll do is I'm going to share my screen. And I'm going to go ahead and open our textbook. Let's see. So I have to go here. Should be able to do this Cengage link to our book. Can you still see my screen, Alicia?
Yes, I can.
Okay. I just want to make sure, because sometimes it doesn't work for some reason. So I'm going to go ahead and load this up, and then I'm going to come down to chapter 14, which is mortgages. And if you go to the homework, let me go there real quick. If you go to our modules and you come down to this week, which is week 6, and if you go to the homework section, this is what I advise students to do as they prepare for the week. Is it says right here what areas you need to review. So 14.1, 14.2, and 14.3, and then 14.6. So as I just mentioned, that's the area that we're going to be looking at here. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to the textbook. And so 14.1 is the first section here. And I'm not going to read any of it. I'm just going to get right to the problem that they pose. But the big thing you need to remember is there's an amortization table that you're going to use. This is something that's common. It's out there. They use them all the time in mortgage companies and things like that. And it's just a quick way of figuring out how much your payment is going to be. And depending on your interest rate and the terms of your loan, as you can see on the screen, you have 5 years to 40 years as far as the term of your loan. And then you have the interest rate from 3.5% all the way up to, it looks like 13%, which it's been a long time since it's been up to 13%. Right now, it's somewhere between probably 4 and 6%, which is really low. It's at an all-time low and has been there for a long time as far as the interest rate for a mortgage loan. But you're going to be utilizing this table a lot. The big question here is you have to divide your total mortgage by 1,000. So if you're buying a house for 150,000, you need to divide the factor by 1,000. So 150 divided by 1,000 would then be 150. And then you would take the 150 and multiply it by the table factor. And I'll show you how to do that in just a second. So if I scroll down here, that gets into some mortgage shopping. We're not going to go through that, but here's the key right here in the middle of your screen to find the monthly mortgage payment by an amortization table to find how much interest you're going to pay. So you need to find the number of by 1,000. So basically the amount that you're going to finance for your mortgage times 1,000 or divided by 1,000, that gives you a factor. And then you're going to take that thousands finance factor by the table factor. And the table factor is found by the interest rate and the terms of the loan. So I'll show you how to do that here in a second. Here's an example. So what is the monthly payment of a $150,000 mortgage at 5% for 30 years? So first thing you're going to do is figure out what is that amount financed divided by 1,000. So again, 150 divided by 1,000 equals 150. So 150,000 divided by 1,000 is 150. And then you need to go to the table. So 5% at 30 years is 5.37. And I'm going to show you that if I go back to the table. what was the years again? It was how many years? Sorry, 30 years at 5%. So I'm going to go back to the table. So we're going to go 5% right here, and then we're going to go 30 years over here. So here's the 30, here's the 5, and they meet right here at 5.37. So that's the table factor, and I'm going to multiply that 150 by 537. And that's going to give me a total monthly payment of $805.50. That $805.50 per month is your monthly payment. That includes both interest and principal. So the interest is going to be less than that for the first month. So a little bit of that money is going to go to principal, and I'll show you how to do that in the next part of this question. So it says step 4, what is the total interest that you're going to pay? Well, you would take the $805.50 by how many years the loan is. So a loan is for 30 years. You're going to multiply 30 by 12, right? Because there's 12 months in a year. So you're going to be paying $805 every month for 30 years, comes out to 360 payments. So 805 times 360 means that you're going to pay a total of $289,980. But you only actually bought the home for $150,000. So that means you paid $139,000 in interest on that house. So that's the bummer of buying a house and mortgaging it over 30 years, is you end up actually paying almost double for the price of the home. But of course, you were able to, pay a small amount every month until you paid it off. So that means that what this is telling us is if you took out a loan for $150,000 at 5% interest for 30 years, you will end up paying, if you make the minimum payment every month, $289,980 for the home, which means that you spent $139,000 in interest alone on the home. So kind of a bummer, right? But that's the way it is. That's the reality of it. So looking at the next part of this question, the very bottom, what is the monthly payment and total interest on $85,500, 4.5% interest for 25 years? So the first thing we're going to do for this problem is we're going to divide 85,500 by 1,000. So if you do that, it's going to come out to 85.5. That'll be your answer. So I don't know if you can see. Can you see my calculator when I put it up on the screen? Can you see that?
No, I don't see it.
Let me try again, see if it'll let me. I'll just do this. This will let me do it. Okay, now can you see it?
Yes.
Okay, so it's 85,500, right? Divided by 1,000 equals, so 85.5. That's what I had said. So 85.5, remember that number. We're going to go back to the screen. So 85.5, and then what is 4.5% interest by 25 years? So I'm going to go back to the table. 4.5% interests right here, 4.50 by 25 years is 5.56. So 5.56. So I'm going to go back to my calculator here if it'll let me. Let me open my calculator. Sorry, let me end that for a second. There's my calculator, so now I can share it. So we're going to do 85.5 times, what was it? 5.6? I don't remember.
5.56.
Okay, sorry, 85.5 times 5.56 equals. So 475.38. That's how many, that's how much my monthly payment is going to be. So let's write that down. You would have known I don't have a pen. Hold on a second, let me find a pencil. I should have had a pad of paper ready. For 475.38. Then we have to figure out how many payments we're going to make, right? So if we have 25 years and there's 12 months in every year, that means we're going to have a total of 300 payments. So if I multiply the 475.38 by 300. So 475.38 equals, I'm going to have spent 142,614. You can see my calculator, right?
Yes.
Okay. So that means I spent $142,614 for my home, buying it at 4.5% interest at 25 years. So what I'm going to do now is, how much did I originally buy it for? It was 85,500, correct?
Yeah.
I'm going to minus 85,500 equals, that means I've spent $57,114 in interest. So that's, I don't know what the question was asking, but so let's go back and take a look. I think it was asking me, what was the total, what is the monthly payment and what is the total interest? So the monthly payment was $475.38, and my total interest on this loan was going to be $57,114. So that was the first section. That, so basically you'll have problems like that. Just the main thing is just remember two things: to divide the total amount that you're going to finance by 1,000, and then multiply that answer by whatever the table factor is, based off of the interest rate and the terms of the loan. So, so we'll go, I'll show you another one here. Let me know if you can't see my screen. I'm going to go to the next page. So now what it wants us to do is create an amortization schedule. So in this case, what we're going to do is we're going to find out first what is the monthly payment, and then we're going to try and find out how much interest is going to be charged on that first payment and how much principal is going to be left. So in every payment that you make on a mortgage loan, a majority of it at the beginning goes towards that interest amount that you're going to be paying, and then a small portion of it, if it's enough, will pay some of the principal down on the actual mortgage amount that you owe. So that's what these problems go through, is they show you how to do that. So basically they want you to create a table. So the first thing we need to find out is how much is the payment, and then we need to find out how much do you owe, and then how much of that payment is going to go towards the principal balance, and thus reducing it after each payment. So you're supposed to go through and show 3 months or 4 months of payments being made, and how much your balance is at the end of those 4 months. So we'll go through and work out one of these problems. They're not difficult either, but the first one is right here. It says, so basically, based off of the first problem that we looked at in example number 1 on section 14.1, if you remember, we did a $150,000 mortgage at 5% for 30 years. So we took the 150,000, divided it by 1,000. That gave us a factor of 150. And then we went to the table, and we went to 5% at 30 years. And I believe that the table factor at that point was 5.37. So we multiplied that. That gave us a payment amount for a monthly payment amount of $805.50. So what we're going to do is we're going to try and figure out how much of that $805.50 goes to interest, and how much of that $805.50 goes to principal every month. So the first thing you need to do is we need to go back to when we were figuring out what our interest was, simple interest on any amount. So in this case, if you could see your screen, because the principal was 150,000 and it's a 5% interest rate, and we're going to do just 1 month worth, 1 month out of the year. We're going to look at 1 month out of the year. How much interest would you pay? So we did 1 by 12. If you remember, when we did simple interest, we followed this formula. So what we're trying to figure out is how much interest am I going to pay on a $150,000 principal? That's how much I borrowed. So this will be my very first month's payment that I'm going to make. And according to this example, 150,000 times 5% times 1/12 is going to give me a total of $625. So that means my first month on this mortgage loan, my interest is going to be $625. Well, if my payment was $805, right, and my interest was $625, I'm going to subtract that, and whatever remains is going to be used to pay off my actual loan. So in this case, I have $180.50 that will be paid directly towards the $150,000. Unfortunately, the 625 went to interest. So the bank got that. That was their portion of this this arrangement, and only $180 went towards my principal. But if that's the case, notice here, step 4, I remove or deduct that $180.50 from the 150. So now my new balance after my very first payment is now I owe $149,819.50, right? So that is now my end of month number 1 balance. And now what I need to do in order to get the next month's interest is I got to do the same thing. However, I don't start with the 150. I start with my new balance. My new balance is $149,819.50. So I'm going to multiply that by 5% and by 1 month by 1/12. Now my new interest payment for month number 2 is $624.25. Again, my monthly payment was $805.50 minus the $624.25. Now I have another $181.25 in month 2 that's going to be applied towards my balance. And so I'm going to deduct that amount from my new balance. And now I'm going to have a new balance of $149,638.25. So at the end of month 2, after I've made my second payment, I now owe $149,638.25. So that's the end of month 2. However, we're going to keep going into month 3. So month 3, my beginning balance again is $149,638.25. I'm going to take out the interest on that. So how much interest is going to be accrued that month is going to be that amount times 5% times 1/12. Now it's $623.49 is going to go towards interest out of my third payment. So my third payment of $805.50 minus the interest means I get to apply $182.01 towards my balance to reduce my balance. And so again, I'm going to take the $149,638.25 minus the new amount of principal deduction. And now my new balance is going to be $149,456.24. So if you look at the table below, it actually breaks it out for you. You started with $150,000 on your loan balance. You made a monthly payment in month number 1. Even though $625 of that went to interest, $180.50 went towards the loan balance reduction. So that gave me a new balance of $149,819.50. Again, I ran another payment. I did the interest on that. It became out to $624.25, which gave me another $181.25 off of the balance that I got to reduce. So I deducted that from the $149,819. And that gave me a new balance at the end of month 2 of $149,638.25. Again, I made another payment in month 3. We took out more interest on month 3, but a little bit less because I had a less of a balance to start with. That gave me another $182.01 I got to deduct off of the loan balance. And that gave me a new balance of $149,456.24 at the end of month 3. Now, if I keep going all the way through this at the month 300, because remember, or excuse me, in this case, it's 360 months. At the end of 360 months, my loan balance will be 0, right? I'll have paid it all off at that time, but it's going to take that long to reduce my loan balance. But notice every time that I do it, it's a little bit less interest and a little bit more principal to reduce my loan balance. And that's the key. When you get to the end of this loan, it's going to be very little interest and a lot of principal that goes towards the loan and paying it off. That's why if you pay more in your principal, maybe more than is required, like rather than pay the $805, I might pay $1,005. That's $200 every month going towards principal. That will reduce it a little bit more, which means I'll pay a little bit less interest on what I owe. And that's the benefit of paying it off. You know, it allows you to pay it off earlier. So going to the next exercise, number 2 here, we're going to do this. We're going to create a amortization schedule for this, for these 4 payments. I wish I was able to draw something on the board here. I guess I could probably put up a Word doc and we can build off of that. But let me see if I could do that real quick, and I'll type it in. So hold on, I'm gonna do a new document, and I'm gonna shrink it down. I'm gonna share my screen in a minute once I get all this up here. So it was 125,000, 6% for 15 years, right? So 125,000, 6% for, what was the term? Sorry, I'm lost here. I don't want that. It was for 15 years. Okay. So 15 years. All right, I'm going to come back to that in just a second. And I'll just do all my math on this page once I get the table factor. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to scroll back to get my table factor. So it was 15 years at 6.5%, 6%. Okay. So I'm going to go 15 years. Can you see my screen, by the way?
Yes, I could see it.
So we said it was 6% by 15 years, right? So what's the factor?
Yes. So that would be 8.44.
Okay, so 8.44. We're going to go ahead and go back here and go 8.44. All right. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen, but I'm going to try and make this bigger so that way you can see it. Okay. All right, let me unshare my screen for a second and let me reshare my screen so that I get to the Word doc. Okay, can you see my Word doc screen now?
Yes.
Okay, so first thing we're gonna do is figure out what is the payment, right? So remember, we're gonna take the 125,000, we're gonna divide that by 1,000, right? So we already know what that's gonna be. It should be 12.5 or 125, sorry, but let me just do it. Do my 125 divided by 1,000. It's 125. All right. So that's how much my amount is. I'm going to multiply that amount by my table factor, 8.44. All right. So I'm using my calculator. You may not be able to see me doing that, but it's okay. So that's going to give me a total of 1,055. So my monthly payment on this loan is going to be $1,055. All right. So if I just do I'm just going to do it this way. Month 1, month 2. Can you see my screen? Just to make sure.
Yes.
Okay. So what it's asking you is for an amortization schedule. So let's just do it this way. We'll do month 1. We'll do payment. We'll do interest. And then we'll do balance. All right. Actually, let's do it this way. Let's do month. I'm going to do it a little differently. So I'm going to get rid of that. I'm going to do it exactly how they do it. So month 1, 2, 3. All right. So we know the payment is 1,055, right? What we don't know is the interest. But we know the balance. So the original balance, let's go down one line. The original balance was 125,000, right? And then what we're trying to find then is what are these other ones? So month 1, we know that the payment is going to be the same every month. So, but we don't know the interest is going to be different every month. So we need to figure that. Do that. Okay, sorry about that. And then the same thing for month 3. So what we're trying to find here is what is that ending balance. So the first thing we need to figure out is how much interest then are we going to pay month 1. So we're going to multiply that by the interest rate was 6%, 0.06. And then we're going to multiply that by 112. Okay. So if we do the math on that, and by the way, this one you do the 125,000. So 125,000 times 0.06 times 1 divided by 12 equals. So 625 was the interest. So if I paying 1,055, let's do this, sorry, 625. So if I'm paying 1,055, but 625 of it is interest, I'm going to minus that. And that's going to lead then to minus 1,055. $430. So $430 towards principal. So I can deduct then $430 from 125,000. So let's do that. My balance is 125,000. I'm going to minus $430. So what does that come out to? Minus 430. So that means my new balance is 124,570. All right. So basically that's month one. Now I'm going to go, let's do 124,570. So now I'm going to go to month two. And this is where people make the mistake. It's no longer 125,000. Now it's 124,570. That's my new balance, right? So that's going to be multiplied by 0.06, multiplied by 112. Sorry. What does that come out to? So let's do the math on that. 124,570 times 0.06 times 1 divided by 12 equals 622. 622.85. All right. If my payment is 1,055, I'm going to minus 622.85 from that. And the rest of that will be applied. That's interest, so we should put that right here. 622 went towards interest. A little bit less, notice. A little bit less went to interest, so I'm going to minus those two. So let's see, minus 1,055. So 432.15. So 432.15 is now applied towards principal, so I could deduct that from the 124,570 minus 432. Notice it's a little bit more because I paid a little bit less interest. So I get a little bit more to pay towards the payment. So this will give me my new balance. So 124,570 minus 432.15. So now my new balance is 137.85. So that's going to go here. 124,137.85. So that's now my new balance after 2 months worth of payments. So now, like if I come down here, I'll do month 3. And the first thing I need to do is figure out my interest. So again, I don't take the original amount, I take the most current balance and I multiply that by the percentage rate and I multiply that by the time. And that's going to give me my next month's interest amount, which is going to be a little bit different. So times 0.06 times 1 divided by 12 equals $620. $620 and sorry, there's some cents there, and 69 cents. So that's now my third month's interest, $620.69. Notice that again, it's a little bit less. So now all I need to do to get the remainder of this answer is take my 124,137.85 and subtract the amount. Oh, sorry, I missed one step here. I'm going to take my 1,055. That was my payment minus my interest, 620.69, and that's going to give me my new. Let's see. So what's that going to be? 1,055 minus 1,000. So my new is 434. That's how much it goes towards 31, goes towards paying down the principal, because I made a payment of 1,055. So then I take my 124, 137.85, and I subtract the 434.31, and that's going to give me my new balance at the end of 3 months. So let's do that. 130, excuse me, 124, 137.85 minus 434.31 equals. So now my new balance is 123, 703.54. So that is the answer. That's asking you what is the balance due at the end of month 3, would be that. So I just created a what's called an amortization table, and I figured out my interest for each month. I figured out my payment, very beginning, figured out my payment was going to be, then I figured out how much interest every month was going to be of that payment, how much of that was going to be interest, and then the remainder of that was what I deducted from the balance. So basically I subtracted the interest from the payment, and whatever was left over went against the balance. And I did that every month till I got to the end here. So that's my answer. Did that make sense? Alicia, Mary?
Yes, it did.
Okay, so that's how you do those amortization problems where you have to actually
Kind of.
table. The main thing is, don't forget when you're figuring the interest for 1 month that you take the most current balance. That's where most students make a mistake, is they'll keep using the main balance, but you can't because your balance has been reduced based off of the prior month's payment. So, all right, so that's those kinds of problems. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing for a second. Any questions so far?
Oh, thank you.
Okay, so those are the first 2 kinds of problems that I need you to do, and then the last ones I don't do. I don't do any of these mortgage ones, figuring out your PITI and all that, but I do closing costs and any of that. But in section 4.6, the last one I want to bring to your attention is is this one here. Let's see, those are review exercises. So again, these you're just going to be going through the table. So basically, you might want to work on a few of these, but you take the amount, divide it by 1,000, and then look up on the table the interest rate and the terms of the loan. Get your table factor and then do your math. And we already kind of went over that a little bit earlier. And then here's one, the same one with I just did now with the amortization table, where you're starting with your loan balance, figuring out your monthly payment, figure out your interest, figure out the portion to reduce your principal, which is the remainder of these 2. And then you deduct it from the balance. So at the end of 4 months, you have a lower balance. So anyway, those are the problems. But what I want to bring your attention to last in this section is section 4.6, and that deals with basically whether or not you have any money, any value left in your any credit available to you within your home. The one thing that's nice about owning a home is oftentimes your home is worth a lot more than you owe. That isn't the case so much lately, but in the past, as you own a home maybe for 10 years, you've paid down on the principal. In the meantime, the house value has gone up, and now you may have a home that's worth $300,000, but you only owe $150,000. So you could actually borrow money against your house and use that money for home improvements. You can use that money to go on vacation. You can use that money to buy another home if you desire to do that. And so it's nice to have equity in your home because it gives you a little bit of, gives you a little bit of financial flexibility. Or you just might want to keep paying it off and not have a house payment at all. Eventually, that would be the ultimate goal. So what they were asking you here in these questions is, if you can borrow up to 75% of your home's value or appraised value, how much available credit would you have in your home? Now, they won't typically let you borrow 100% of your value. So again, if you owed if you owed 150, but your house was worth 300, they're not going to let you borrow 150. They're going to let you borrow 75% of that 150, and that would be what we consider the the 75% value that you'd have to be able to borrow if you wanted to borrow. So in this case, if you notice the question here on example number 6, it says Terry Alexander owns a house that was recently appraised for $115,700. I'm going to write that down. And the balance on her existing mortgage is only $67,875. So the bank is willing to loan her up to 75% of the appraised value. What is the potential amount of credit available to her? So in this case, if she owes $115,700 and they're going to let you borrow 75%, you would multiply the $115,000 by the 75%. That means they'll let her borrow up to $86,000. Now, of course, she has a first mortgage of $67,000, so she can't borrow all of that. So you'd have to subtract the potential credit from the existing mortgage that she has, and then whatever's left, that's how much she would be able to borrow. So in this case, she could borrow up to $86,000, but because she owes $67,000, she can only actually borrow $18,900, the difference between those two numbers. So if we move to the next problem, we can figure this one out for ourselves. Justin Schaefer owns a home that was recently appraised for $92,900. And his credit union, his first mortgage is $32,440. That means that's how much he owes. And his bank will let him borrow up to 80% of the appraised value. So we can multiply the 92 by 0.80. So if we do that, I'm gonna do the math on my calculator. You can't see it, but 92,900, that's the appraised value, times 0.80. That means that they'll let him borrow up to $74,320, but he owes $32,440. So if you see here, he owes $32,440. So we can take the 74. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen because I'm gonna share my calculator. So I'm gonna do the 74,320. That's how much he could borrow. That's the 80% of his 92,900 that his house was worth. But he owes 32,440 or 440. So he can't borrow that. So you minus those two, he can borrow up to $41,880. So that would be the answer. How much? $41,880. There's the answer. Does that make sense? So there's one problem in your book or on your test or it's in the check-in assignment this week. And it actually comes out, when you do this, it comes out to zero right here, or actually it comes out to a negative number. In other words, there's more that they owe than they're able to borrow. And so it comes out as a negative number. Well, if it's a negative number, you can't borrow anything. It would be the same thing as saying zero, because you can't borrow anything if you owe more than you can borrow, right? So in other words, if this number here where it says potential credit, if the 74,320 was you're minusing another 80,000 from that. In other words, let's say he didn't owe 32,440, he owed 80,000, and you can only borrow 74,000, then he wouldn't be able to borrow anything. It would be a negative number. So the answer would be zero. He cannot borrow anything because he owes too much. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Okay. So there is a problem. I think it's on your check-in assignment. The answer is zero. Just so you know. All right, so that's all I was going to say. That's all you have to know in chapter 18. It's not much. Hold on a second. I was getting some text, so I just want to make sure I didn't miss anything. I think my wife is trying to get a hold of me. All right. Let me go to chapter 21. All right, chapter 21. All right, so what I'm going to talk about here is business statistics. And all you really need to know on this one, let me do this first real quick. I'm going to go back to here. I'm going to unshare my screen because I know you guys won't be able to see it. Okay, so I'm going to go back real quick. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Can you see the modules I'm working on? Okay.
Yes.
So if you come here to module, this week's module, it's 14 and 21. So again, if you go to homework for chapter 21, these are the sections that you need to cover. There's quite a bit more in this chapter that you need to cover, but they're not difficult. And a couple of them are just about reading a chart or reading a table, which I probably won't go over in this session. But anyway, so 2.1 through 21.1 through 21.4, 21.5. So basically all the way to 21.11 in this particular one. So I'm going to go back to my book here. Hold on. I can't see my text keep coming over. Let me unshare. Okay, I'm going to go back to the book. Sorry, I don't know what I'm doing here. I cannot see anything here. Sorry, I'm going to text my wife back. All right, so let's go to, okay, here we go. All right, so in chapter 21, it's basically basic business statistics is what you're going to be doing. And it's pretty simple. I'm not going to get into some of the earlier stuff, but what I am going to talk about is, let's see. Yeah, I'm not going to do the section 1.1. Section 1.1 is just asking you to answer questions about different months and things like that that you are having to figure out. I'm not going to reading, interpreting information from a chart, constructing a line chart. Oh, okay, so it does get into some of this stuff. I'm not going to go over this stuff. This is where you're just looking at a chart. Can you guys see my screen right now? And it's asking you to find out, you know, what happened in month September, you know, and they'll ask you what was the amount, you know, during that month. So you just got to be able to look at the chart and be able to read the chart. I'm not going to go over those with you. Hopefully that's pretty self-explanatory. And if you work through the book, you'll be able to do that. And then on section 21.3, you're actually making a bar chart. So this is where you're taking data and it gives you the data and you're actually mapping out the data. You're reading the chart. And then I think later on here, it gets into actually mapping out a chart. So it's asking you, like, for instance, what was the sales goal in 2012? So you come up to the chart and you look at the goals for 2012, which is right here. So anyway, I'm not going to go over any of that stuff. What I'm going to get into is all the way down here into doing the math part of it, which is figuring out the mean, the medium, and the mode. And these are real simple, but basically the mean is really nothing more than the average, and the mode is what is the most common, and the medium. So anyway, I'll go through each of these. Calculate the arithmetic mean of ungrouped data. Find the sum of all the values in the data set, divide the sum by the number of values in the value set. So it's basically like finding the average. So here's the example it gives you. Worldwide travel has daily sales of 4,635 on Monday, 3,655 on Tuesday, 2,870 on Wednesday, 4,309 on Thursday, etc. So there's a whole week worth. And so what they were trying to ask you is, what is the mean sales per day? What was the median sales for the week? So you take all the data, you'd add it all up. Excuse me, I'm gonna sneeze. Excuse me. And then you would divide it by, excuse me, by how many there were. So here you have 6 digits, representative of each day, and then you divide that by 6, so that gives you your average. So basically it comes out to 4,075 is the average amount of sales per day if you take the entire week into consideration. So looking at exercise 11, it says Bernese Mountain Dog, Amur, a Bernese Mountain Dog loves her daily walks. If over a 5-day period, she had walks of 2.5, 1.6, 2.8, 3.7, and 2.8 miles, what was the average number of miles she walked? So we would just add 2.6, 1.6, 2.8, 3.7, and 2.8. And that would be the total. And then since it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 factors, we divide it by 5. And that tells us the average is 2.7 miles per day is what she walked over the course of that week. So that's all you're doing with the mean, is you're finding the average of what those numbers represent. And that's pretty simple. The medium is a little different. The medium is you are ranking the numbers in order of ascending or descending order. So for odd number values, the medium is the middle value. And for even number, you have to take the 2 middle values and multiply them together and then divide. So for instance, here's a string of numbers, 2, 8, 5, 13, 11, 6, 19, 15, and 4. So you want to put them in order of ascending order, sorry. So 2, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 11, 13, 15. And then you're just going to find the middle value. So in this case, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 values. So the middle value is going to be 8. So what is the medium? 8. That's your answer. Pretty simple. However, if you have an odd number or an even number, it's going to be a little different. So let's look at this set here. There's 4, 59, 65, 58, 42, 37, 24, 30, 36, 19. Anyway, if I was to put them in order of ascending order, I would start with 1220 be the first one, then 2430 would be the second one, then 3619 would be the third one, then 4237 would be the fourth one, then 4589, and then 5840, and then 6558. So the middle number in all those would be 4237. So that's my medium. That is the middle number in that set of numbers. It's pretty easy to figure out. However, when you have an even number, it becomes a little bit different. So here, if you notice on example 13, you guys can see my screen, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So you have 5, 5, 6, 7, 9, 23. Well, there is no middle number because it's even, it's 6 and 7. And because it's in between 6 and 7 and there is no number, you have to take both of those numbers. If you notice here, 6 plus 7, which is 13, you divide that by 2, and then that gives you your medium number. And for some reason, it's not showing up there, but it basically is 6.5. So looking at the next data set, 12, 33, 42, 13, 79. So we put all of those in order, or I'll just do it right here. So 12, then 13, then 33, then 42. Oh no, 29, sorry. 33, 42, 54, 79, 76, 79, 81, and 101. Is that right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, that's 10 numbers. So right in the middle, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is 42 and 54. 42 plus 54. So I'm going to add those together. That comes out to 106, and I'm going to divide 106 by 2. Let's see if I'm right on that. Yep. Oh, sorry, 96. I added it wrong. 96 divided by 2 equals 48. So my medium on that set, because I have to take the 42 and the 54 and add them together and then divide them, my medium is 48. Now this becomes important in statistics because statistics, you're trying to make sure that your data set doesn't have too many outliers. You know, what if I had this list you're looking at now, and then I had a 5,000 out there somewhere? That was the other digit I got. Well, something happened. So sometimes what they like to do is remove the outliers and then find the medium. So that way they have the medium score of this set of numbers and they can work from there. And that's valuable in that. So anyway, and then the last one is determining, the last two is determining the mode. And all the mode is which numbers appear most often. That's really all it comes down to. So for instance, in this set of numbers, 25, 25, 60, 60, 60, 75, 75, 75, 100, 100, and 150. Well, because 75 appears most often, that is your mode. So it's 75 is the answer to that one. Looking at the next set of numbers, you have 10, 10, 20, 10, 55, 20, 10, 65, 85, 20, 10, 20, 55, 10, 125, 55. So if you count them all up, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 tens. I think that's going to win. There's nobody else that's got 7. So 10 would be your mode because there's the most tens. That's all it is. So in a set of numbers, what is the one that occurs most often? That is your mode. And that's pretty simple. And then the last one is determining the range. And all the ranges is what is the highest and lowest number in your set of numbers. And then you subtract them from one another, and that gives you your range. So in this case here, you have the set of numbers. So you take the highest number and minus the lowest number from it. So the highest number in this set is 4250. The lowest number is 1495. So your range of numbers is 2755. That's all you do, is you subtract the highest from the lowest. So looking into the next set of numbers down here at the bottom, our highest number is 369. And our lowest number, it looks like it is 351. So 369 minus 351, or sorry, 349, I missed it. 349 is the lowest, so that's a 20-degree range. So that's all you do on those. Those are pretty simple. All right, the only other thing I had you do, I believe, is to do a frequency distribution. So this is section 3, 21.9, 21.8. And frequency distribution, all it is it demonstrates or shows where all your data lies and into which window. So for instance, I'll show you an example. So here you have a set of numbers between, so basically this is an interval of 10 pounds each. So they want you to create a table that has categories that are 10 pounds each. So 0 to 10, 11 to 20, 21 to 30, etc. So you'd create a table that has those different areas. So if you notice here, it actually starts at 10 because there's nothing that's below 10. So 10 to 19, 20 to 29, 30 to 39. And then all you do is you create the table based off of the numbers, and then you figure out how many of each number falls within each one of those categories. So how many numbers are between 10 and 19? How many numbers are between 20 and 29? And you list them all out that way. And so then you have your frequency. This is called a frequency chart. So how often do those numbers appear within those various ranges? So if it asks you to make a range, you have to create the range, and then you add it all into the range. And that's all they're asking you to do. The same thing here. This one has a bunch of numbers, and they're asking you to make it in $10 intervals. So since no numbers are below 10, they started at 10 to 19, 20 to 29, and then they just added in how many of each of these numbers was in that list, and then how frequently they show up. So that way you can quickly go, oh, there's 6 of them that fall between 70 and 79. So does that make sense? And I think that's pretty much it for this section. I don't get into anything more than that. So. All right, did that make sense, or did I rush through that too quickly?
We're gonna study more.
What's that?
We're gonna have to study more.
Okay, well, I mean, if there's anything else I can show you, let me know. I'm happy to go over it with you.
Thank you.
You know, I mean, the statistics stuff is actually very, very simple. It's really just averages. Once you understand that the mean is the average and the medium is the middle number in a set of numbers, and the mode is the one number that appears the most, that's really all you need to know on those three. And when you're seeing a data set of numbers, which is what statistics is, maybe you have 50 people that have taken an exam and they all got a different number. And you might say, well, what's the average? Well, you take the total amount divided by how many students took the test. That would give you your average or your mean. Or if you said, what's the middle number? Then you would list them all out from ascending order from the lowest to the highest, and then find the middle number. That is your medium. And if it's two numbers, you have to add them together and then divide them, and that gives you your accurate medium. And then your mode is, well, how many of the most? Which one appears the most? I mean, maybe even though the highest number was a 98, you might have had a lot of people that were at 65, you know, because everybody got 65. Most people got 65, so that would be your mode. Other than that, it's fairly simple. I didn't go through all the charts and reading the charts and all that. Hopefully that isn't too difficult. If you look at your book, you'll have no trouble figuring it out. But really, it's a chart, and you're looking at the chart to find the value that they're asking you for. It's I don't even know why it's really in this chapter, other than I guess at times you'll have to look at charts and figure out, what the values are in the charts. So
Yep.
Anyway, hope that helps.
Yep.
Sound good? You guys want anything else?
Thank you.
I think that's good. Thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna end the recording here.